there are more chairs in the closet.
No.
No, we're out.
No.
We have them all out. Standing room only. Well, good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. I'm Nancy Lockwood, and I am the head of voter services for the Laramie League of Women Voters. I want to thank the Albany County Public Librarian Cindy Moore and her staff, particularly Caitlin White, who are assisting us in co-sponsoring the forums. They have helped with all the setup, and they, along with us, have purchased a new sound system this year, so we're hoping that things will go much more smoothly. They have the last two forums with people being able to hear in the back and less feedback. Before we get started with questions for the candidates, I'll go over some general information about the forum procedures and some general information about election. As a courtesy, I would like everyone to turn off or turn their cell phones to silent mode. And also a reminder that video recording of any kind is not allowed. We are doing video recording, and it will be posted on the League's website, which is wyominglwv.org. And I think they're also doing DVDs, or did you ever find out, Susan, if the library was going to put it on DVD and have it check out?
No.
They aren't, or you don't know?
No, I did not find out.
Okay. They may. You can check with the front desk of the library and see if they have DVDs for checkout of the forums. On the side table over here next to the American flag are some brochures about the League of Women Voters. It includes membership brochures, so if you are enjoying our candidate information and our voter services and such like that, you might want to consider becoming a League member, particularly if you're interested in current issues and being civically responsible. In addition, there are copies of the Wyoming State League publication called A Look at Wyoming Government, and those are available on the back table, and you can simply take one. They are free. The primary election will be Tuesday, August 19, with polling places open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or you can vote early by completing a ballot at the county clerk's office or requesting an absentee ballot from the clerk's office. There is election information available at the county clerk's office or on their website, as well as on the Wyoming Secretary of State's website. If you've not registered to vote or need to change your voter information, you can do so at the county clerk's office, or you may do so at your polling place on election day. You will need a picture ID if you're going to register or change your registration. And on the back table, sort of near the door where the clock over there is, are some sample ballots. They are just one set of sample ballots, so I'd appreciate if we don't take them with you, although I think a few have been picked up over the last two forums, and we may be missing a couple. There's also a precinct map, so you can check on the map about where you live and then what districts you're in for the various races and where your polling place would be. There's also some candidate information on the other back table over here that the candidates have provided, so if you want to pick up any of their brochures and literature, please do so. And I want to remind the candidates that because this is a public place, that they cannot be left here. So if you don't pick up your campaign literature at the end, they will have to toss it. Also, the League of Women Voters and the Laramie Daily Boomerang have put out our annual voter guide. This will be published in the newspaper on August 10. We have advanced copies available already. They are in some of the public places around town. I think they are at the clerk's office, I know. They're here at the library. I think there's a copy at the Epson Center and a few other places like that around town that you can look at. And at this time, I would like to give any other candidates that are in the audience here tonight a chance to stand up and give their name and what office they're running for if they'd like to.
Janice Sexton, running for re-election for Clerk of District Court.
I'm Jackie Gonzalez, running for re-election for Albany County Clerk.
We'll just start, we'll work our way around here.
John Esley, I'm a candidate for County Commissioner.
My name is Bern Haggerty. I'm a candidate for City Council from Ward 3, east of 15th Street, Buffalo.
Good evening. I'm Dana Brewer, and I'm a candidate for the Assessor of Albany County this year.
I'm Grant Schoiker. I am the County Assessor, and I'm seeking re-election under the Democratic ticket. I'm Gary Welkin, and I'm a candidate for County Commissioner on the Democratic ticket.
Tim Chestnut, I'm running for county commissioner for re-election.
Rob Debris, I'm representing Sheriff O'Malley, who is at an emergency surgery, otherwise he'd be here tonight.
Thank you.
He's not. But he's
We got everyone? We'll begin tonight's forum with questions for our candidates. The questions are to be written down and can be submitted at any time. Since we have two races here tonight, the Albany County Attorney candidates and the Albany County Coroner candidates, we ask that you please indicate at the top of your question to which race your question is directed. There are pencils and pads of paper in each row of seats. When you have a question completed, raise your hand and one of our league members will come and collect the questions from you and give them to our moderator. Your questions should be directed towards all candidates, that is towards the position, not towards a particular candidate. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question. We do have a timekeeper right up front here who will signal you by holding up a sign when you're approaching your time limit, when you're down to 30 seconds, and at the conclusion of the time limit.
That's when I dance. No.
And our moderator will read the questions and also has the duty or responsibilities that they can edit questions for clarity and appropriateness, and may ask further questions to help expand upon an issue. In addition, the moderator may also vary the allowed response time based on the complexity of the question and overall time constraints of the forum. In the last 20 or 30 minutes or so of the forum, we'll be given over to informal conversation with the audience and the candidate members. So at this time, I'd like to turn things over to our moderator tonight, Dr. Terry Rourke. Terry has a PhD in astronomy and is President Emeritus of the University of Wyoming, having served as the President of UW from 1987 to 1997. Currently, he is on the Board of Directors of Cathedral Home for Children, which includes the Laramie Youth Crisis Center and the Carbon County Youth Crisis Center, and is past president of this board. Terry is also in his third elected term as a member of the Albany County Hospital Board of Trustees and has previously served as chair of this board. He also served for many years on the Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission as a member and chair. So welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Nancy. I want to thank the league for doing this, just personally, because I think an informed electorate is the best electorate. Casting blank ballots, that's not good. So thank all of you for coming tonight. I also want to thank all the candidates. You know, it's not an easy decision to be a candidate. Somebody's going to lose. Somebody's going to win. And these folks have stepped up. We cannot have government without people willing to step up and put their name on the ballot. And I congratulate every one of you for doing that. So I would like to start out with a couple of general questions. And I'm going to start with, and I hope you don't mind if I call you by your first name. This is Wyoming, after all. And I know most of you, and I've met the others tonight. My first question is, why are you running for the position you seek, and what are your qualifications for the position? So you have 90 seconds each, and we'll start with Peggy.
Don't start. I'm not starting.
It doesn't start until you start talking.
Hi, my name is Peggy Trent, and I'm running for county attorney. And the reason I decided to run for county attorney is I was concerned as to how cases are currently being prosecuted under the current administration. Specifically, I was concerned with the number of cases that we are not being successful when we do go to trial as it relates to sexual offenses. And also, I am concerned on how we are treating juveniles and trying them, a great number of them are still being tried as adults in circuit court. Also, I believe we can do a much better job in how we're handling cases involving people who have mental illness and involuntary commitments. Finally, I believe we need to get the budget under control. And I feel that I can bring to the office the qualifications in order to address each of those concerns. Specifically, as you probably have read and have heard before now, after going to law school, I worked at the Franklin County Attorney's Office for 9 years as serving as an assistant prosecuting attorney. While in Wyoming, I worked at the Wyoming Attorney General's Office, serving as a senior assistant attorney general, representing Department of Family Service, Department of Corrections, and for a brief time, I filled in as Governor Friedenthal's general counsel while his attorney was on leave. I've also, you'll recognize me, I served for 4 years as your Laramie City Attorney. Thank you.
Jim, please.
Thank you. I'm Jim Schermetzler, and I'm running for county attorney. I am currently a deputy county attorney, and I'm running for county attorney because the vacancy has been, my boss is not running for re-election, and I believe that I am in the best position to lead the office into a new era. I have 38 years of experience as a lawyer, 16 of that as a prosecutor, 12 of that in our county, here in Albany County. I have also experience in running my own law office. I've experience in working with law firms, and I think most importantly, I have experience in administrating a law department for banks and bank holding company. I did that for 5 years. Actually, the bank holding company, I created or started that in-house legal department. So I have experience in administration. My leadership style is one of leading by example. My management style is such that I empower my employees, and I lead by allowing them to shine, that they can come to me at any time. They can, I'm
Jim,
getting the
time's
dancing
up.
lady. So.
Tony?
Thank you, Chair. My name's Tony Lopez. I've read everybody else's brochures, I've read the literature, everything else. I'm not going to collaborate, I'm not going to synthesize, I'm not going to interface, I'm not going to empower. I'm not going to do any of that. My door will be open. You come down and talk to me. The way I do things is this. You give people what they can do, and when they reach the point in which they're no longer performing adequately, you stop them. If you see mistakes, you take care of them. If we lose a trial, it's not because the police did a bad job. We did a bad job prosecuting. If you can't look at the case and figure out what the problems are and rectify them, you have no business being in the job. I'm not all about winning. My style would be, the prosecutors will say, here's our stuff. You're entitled to it as a defendant. You have a constitutional right. And then I'm going to expect either myself or the deputy prosecutors to go in there and to win. And to win with dignity and to win with honor. And we're going to take care of the victims all the way through. And we're going to utilize DASA and every other resource that we have. And I think my time's up. You're up, Josh.
My name is Josh Mersil. I'm running for county attorney on the Republican side. Why am I running? Because our office does need new leadership. We need someone that will be there, that will be accountable to the public, and that will run the office with integrity and with transparency. I believe I can do that. My qualifications for the office. I started working for the office in 2009 as an intern. I passed the bar September 2010, became a prosecutor. I've prosecuted approximately half the cases in Albany County for the past 5 years. I'm familiar with all the issues that they're bringing up as far as the trials and stuff like that. Before I was an attorney here, I served in the military. I served in the U.S. Army from 2003 to 2007 and U.S. Marine Corps from 1998 to 2002. During that 8 years, I got extensive leadership training. I believe I have the skills to help our office succeed, to empower our employees. And I'm not quite getting the dancing lady, but I will stop early. That'll be fine. But no, I am asking for your vote on the primary, August 19th, for the Republican side. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. We'll move on to the coroner candidates. Jennifer?
Hello, my name is Jennifer. I want to thank again the League of Women Voters for having us all here tonight and for everybody that came out. First of all, I was raised by two very civic-minded individuals that taught me as I grew up that those that are best qualified need to do what they can to serve the citizens of this country and of your individual communities. I have 8 years experience with the Albany County Coroner's Office, 4 of which I was Chief Deputy Coroner under Tom Ferguson. I also have a degree in forensic anthropology from the University of Wyoming. I received that degree the very last year that it was offered by the university in that career path. I also was a certified medical legal death investigator, a certification that I plan on renewing as soon as possible. The requirement for that is that you have to be actively working for a coroner's office, and that's why my certification there lapsed. I also have multiple other certificates in continuing education, and I'm currently a 911 dispatcher for Albany County Combined Dispatch Center for the Laramie Police Department, Albany County Sheriff's Office, and the Laramie Fire Department. I appreciate your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse?
I'm Jesse Taylor, and I'm running for Albany County Coroner. I want to start out by saying I believe I should be selected for the position of Albany County Coroner because I think I've shown the most commitment to this office. I think I have a better diversified education and experience to best handle the job. And foremost, I would like to say that I meet all of the criteria to become Albany County Coroner under the Wyoming state statutes. And the bottom line is I truly care about this position. I think it's an important position for the community. And I feel like I'm up to the task of taking care of the Albany County Coroner's Office. I have a degree in physical anthropology from the University of Wyoming with a focus in forensic anthropology, osteology, and facial reconstruction. I've worked with law enforcement throughout the state and in Albany County on some homicide investigations and recoveries. And I've worked with people of this county for several years with families who've lost a loved one and needed help with that situation. I hope to have your guys' vote on August 19th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm going to start with, again, the coroner candidates. And Jesse, you're on the hot seat first. This questioner says, one of the major complaints of the now resigned coroner was response times. Now, I don't know anything about that, but evidently the questioner feels they do. If that's correct, what are your plans on the recruitment of deputies to enhance the response times?
I'm really glad somebody asked that question. That's been one of my focuses for my campaign, was the fact that it shouldn't take upwards and over 2 hours to go and take care of somebody who has passed away in our county. Our county is a big county, but it's not that big. Even if you have to go to Rock River or very edges of our county, it's something that should be always handled within a reasonable amount of time. There's no reason why somebody can't make it to a scene basically within an hour. Anything more than that, I question the efficiency of the office and the people involved in making it to help the families that whose loved ones passed away. That's one of the biggest things is, ultimately the office is accountable to the people of Albany County. And I don't think they're getting a fair shot at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Okay. I'm also glad that that question was asked because that has been a problem that we've been seeing consecutively with this current administration. I plan to do a number of things to assist with that in response times. First of all, I'm going to require a 10-minute response time after the time that the phone call was received to the time that they call dispatch back and say that they are physically in the vehicle en route to the call. Now, I can't say that it's not going to take 2 hours because sometimes it takes up to 3 to get to the northern part of our county, depending on if you're all the way up on Old Fort Fetterman. I'm going to take drive times into consideration. I'm also going to take road conditions into consideration. But you're going to be ready to go within 10 minutes of the call, and you're going to be in the vehicle and on your way with the deputies and the equipment that you need. The families deserve that, and so does law enforcement. We can't continue to have roads closed when we're waiting on a coroner to arrive on a fatality on the interstate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to move to county attorney candidates, and we'll start with Joshua. What are the first, this person says 2 things, you may have 1 thing or 4 things, but whatever you can do in 90 seconds. What are the first 2 things you would like to accomplish as county attorney?
The first 2 things I'd like to accomplish is to improve the relationships between our office and the other county agencies. In the past, they have not been the best, but I believe with a different leadership, with a different person there, that can easily be improved. The second thing that I'd like to do is improve the relationship between our office and law enforcement agencies. There's been some breakdown in the communication between the upper echelons of our office and the law enforcement agencies that don't need to be there. We just need to recognize that all of us are here working for a common goal, that goal is the effective law or prosecution of crimes in Albany County. We're here on the same team. We need to work together with everything. It's pretty simple. I have good relationships with all the law enforcement agencies right now. I would work on strengthening those with the different county agencies that we have here. It's simple. Be available, be polite, help them out with whatever we can, when we can.
Thank you, Joshua. Tony?
Within 5 days after the election, if I'm elected, what I will do is call the Dale and Dave, Tom out at the HP, Rick at Game and Fish, the chief up at the university, and we're going to have a dinner together. And here's the only rule: whatever stays in there, whatever we talk about stays in there. I want to see how the office can better serve, what they anticipate from us, what they want us to do. And in all the meetings over the next 4 years, the same rules that apply. You have to have the ability to tell your county attorney what they think is wrong and not have it used against them. The other thing I've been researching is I'm trying to find a 3 or 4 or even a longer seminar to take the probably be Aaron Applehawn, a couple of people from the city, a couple of people from the SO, myself and one other deputy for an in-depth training on how to handle sexual assaults. I have 3 daughters, I'm sorry, no means no. Not much negotiation there. Just because the young lady walked into the bedroom and she may be wearing scantily clothed, she has that right to change her mind. And I'm sorry, that's just one of those things that bothers me also. If you have children in meth, probably just lost your kids.
Thanks, Tony. Jim?
Thank you. The first thing that needs to be done is we need to restore confidence in the county attorney's office. And I think we do that by availability and openness to the public as well as to law enforcement and other agencies. I think if you talk to people that I have dealt with over the last 12 years in DFS in particular, law enforcement as well, and other agencies, you will find that I am really good at returning calls. I'm really good at being responsive to their questions. I think meetings are fine, and we need to do those, but what is important is that when, at the golden moment, when law enforcement agency, DFS workers need some kind of guidance or need some kind of leadership to bring the team together, I am available. I think if you also talk to department heads at the county and elected officials, because for a good part of my experience, I advise them, and the same thing applies. I'm available, I am quick to give advice, or at least available to see their questions and to research it and get back to them. Again, I have a reputation of returning calls and getting back. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Peggy?
I guess the reoccurring theme tonight you're hearing is an improvement in communication and being transparent. Those are the two main overarching issues that currently the current administration is facing. And communication is an interesting way to come out here tonight and just say, this is how I'm going to fix it. Everybody's different. Every agency, every stakeholder. And how those issues are unique to that agency depends upon how you will address the communication. One of the items that we've all been talking about is we need to talk with one another and not at each other in what we have had in the current administration. There needs to be protocols. There has to be that we know what to do when we're in situations. We do it with emergency management. We should be able to know what are we expected to do. And that requires meetings, trainings, talking with one another, getting stakeholders involved, law enforcement. I'm at times taken back how just the subtlety of pointing fingers at our police officers for issues that happen in our cases. We will start taking responsibility under my leadership, and we will learn how to figure out how to deal with the issue without naming names and without saying things outside of our office. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. As you might imagine, I have a plethora of county attorney questions. I would certainly appreciate some more coroner questions. I have one, and I would like to involve these kind of people in this conversation we're having this evening. So if you can think of a good coroner question, please give it to one of the league folks and they'll bring it to me. But I'm going back to county attorney, and I'm going to start with Tony. And I've got a lot of questions that have been submitted, so I'm going to try to condense them. What can be done to improve services for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, and sexual assault in Albany County? And tack on to that, how will you collaborate with LCCC, WildTech, and UW personnel in your prosecution or investigation and perhaps prosecution of these cases? I know it's complicated.
Your question took 45 seconds from my Terry. Okay.
You get the idea, though.
I get the idea. Basically, it needs to be more utilized better. I have been trying to get a hold of the director of the prosecution assistants at the university. I envision, quite frankly, we'd be better off if we got rid of the practice facility for football and if we had 10 coal mines for the tax base. In Albany County, you have to do more with less. That was in my confessional I had today. So I envision having 8 people from the prosecution assistants there, 4 on the criminal side, 4 on the other side, for them to do the research. I've spoken with the chief of police in the last couple of weeks. I spoke with Aaron. I have gone in and talked to Ms. Clayton, who runs the Coalition for Domestic Violence. All the candidates here, we all talked to the safe houses sometime in the last couple of months. There are things that need to be done in that area. I've spoken last week with the president of Tech. I will make a visit to the people at LCCC. I'm not going to be behind my damn desk. Sorry. You want to see me? I can walk down the hall and talk to Rob. I can get in my car and I can go talk to Dale. I'm dead serious when I say you're a public servant. We are elected to serve you. And part of that means taking the heat when you don't like what we're doing. So, which way is this going?
It's going to come to Jim, and then we'll end up with Joshua.
Okay.
I think you improve service to victims a couple of ways. It starts with when the case begins. I think building a team that is able to work together from the get-go to investigate, to communicate from the investigators to the prosecutors, to expend that communication into other areas, victim witness coordinators, and other folks, counselors that can assist in the prosecution of that case. We have in our county a sexual assault response team. I think that team can be utilized better to accomplish those sorts of goals with respect to building the team and yielding better results. The communication with the WyoTech and LCCC and UW, I think, starts with UW with respect to good communication with Chief Stamp at the UW Police Department. I think that is a key, and we can work with Chief Stamp with respect to any seminars or any things that can be done to make people aware at those campuses what the problems are.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Again, we start repeating ourselves, but it requires a collaborative approach in prosecution in dealing with domestic violence as well as sexual assault crimes. I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to victims of sexual assault here in Albany County and children of sexual assault of teenagers who they haven't even, outside of the police department's outstanding job of talking to the victim, haven't even talked to the prosecutors until we're near the time of trial. With a collaborative approach, you're talking to the victim from the moment it walks in the door of our office, and that victim is talking to a prosecutor along with a victim coordinator. Believe it or not, attorneys sometimes can't communicate to someone who's in that state of mind, and also they tune out, and we need to have a victim witness coordinator present to reinforce what the attorney's saying. Their hand of a victim has to be held, and not just of sexual assault, domestic violence. Victims of crime need to have a say at the beginning of a case. The police officers are doing that. We need to do a better job as we bring this forward. In addition, in reaching out to the various colleges, yes, that's what I am accustomed to prosecuting in a community of Ohio State, in Columbus, Ohio. You have to reach out to those communities and make sure that we have a collaborative approach and at the table so we're all talking the same talk and that victims feel comfortable coming forward to report knowing that they will have successful outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Joshua?
So this is a topic that's kind of near and dear to me. I can tell you guys right now that we have not had a successful alcohol-facilitated sexual assault trial in Albany County in the last 5 years. Before that, I don't know how many years it was before our office even attempted to try those cases. They're hard cases to win. The defense is usually consent, and it comes down to a he said, she said that we put in front of the jury, and the jury has to determine what went on. I've tried 3 of these cases. I've lost them all. I've had some of the best victims, best facts that I'll ever have in a case such as this. We need to do a better job. What we've done is we started talking with the SAFE project to develop a family justice center that is a centrally located place where our victims can get all the services in one place. The way the system stands now, the victim talks to the police officer, then she goes to the hospital, then she talks to a safe advocate, then she might talk to the prosecutor, then back to the police officer for some follow-up investigation. Our victims get lost in the maze of bureaucracy. With the centrally located Family Justice Center, we have all those services in one place. She can come report the crime, get the medical services she needs, and we can start working on the prosecution. As far as coordinating with LCCC and UW, we already go out to the campuses. We try to talk to the students. We try to educate the students. We are working, well, I'm working with UW, the Stop Violence Coalition, and some people at LCCC in trying to educate our students. The biggest thing that we need to do right now, though, is start educating our jury pool. Those are the ones that are deciding these cases. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to switch to coroner. I shouldn't have asked. Now I have tons of questions. But I think there's really a fundamental one, and Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. I think at least this person, and I'm going to guess more than this person, has this question in their mind. What are the primary responsibilities of the coroner? And which of these responsibilities would you improve?
The primary responsibility of the coroner is, first of all, to identify the deceased and to provide a cause of death and manner. To do this, you have to understand the science behind it, as well as understand state statute and what is needing to be done in terms of determining manner of death, whether you need to bring in a pathologist, whether you need to consult with the family physician, if you in fact need to go down for a forensic autopsy down at McKee Medical Center. I believe that we probably need to improve all aspects of this, that we need to bring pathologists in more frequently. We have 2 great pathologists up at Ivinson, and I believe that they are probably underutilized and we need to use them more.
Thank you, Jennifer. I would agree with Jennifer on most of that. Having an autopsy performed on every individual that comes through the county, I don't know is necessarily fiscally responsible. If somebody is 95 years old and they passed away, I don't know if necessarily, given the circumstances, depending on what those are, if you would necessarily have to send them to have an autopsy performed on them. That's more common sense. Item if you're following your procedures and like you said, following your science. The biggest thing is that I don't think was touched on by Jennifer was you're investigating any death that's not basically under a doctor's care. So anybody outside of a hospital, hospice, nursing home, any of those deaths are basically coroner's cases. Like I said, I agree. I think the thing that I would focus on more and try to change is basically the communication and respect for the families in this community. Ultimately, it's their loved one that was lost, and you're the person that they're looking to.
Thank you. I'm going to ask another coroner question, and then we'll come back to the county attorney candidates. Could you advise us of your experience with actual death investigations, to include what training you have in this area of expertise? And we'll start with Jesse.
Yes. My degree is in physical anthropology, like I had stated, with a focus in forensic anthropology. I studied under George Gill and Rick Weatherman for osteology. I also studied forensic facial reconstruction under Sharon Long. They're all pretty world-renowned people in the field that are here in our community. I also have worked with law enforcement in our county and the state of Wyoming, specifically Division of Criminal Investigation for the state on some cold case homicide recoveries and some human remains identification in the state. I've also worked search and rescue for county in the state of Wyoming, and done some body recoveries with them, working also with law enforcement. I've worked in the funeral industry in Albany County for a number of years, working with families in the county. And like I said, pretty much my adult career has been working towards this job and working with people of our county. It's what I want to do. It's what I'm passionate about.
Thank you, Jesse. Jen?
My qualifications, starting from the beginning, most of my adult life have been involved in taking care of people in the medical profession. I started out as a CNA when I was 16 and worked for the hospital over in Cheyenne. I then went to school and got my degree in physical anthropology from the University of Wyoming. During that time, I was also working for the coroner's office. I started in 2003 under Julie Heggie. I continued with Tom Ferguson through his 4 years of term as his chief deputy coroner. During that time, I did multiple continuing education classes that are required under state statute, attended numerous conferences and furthered education, and also got my medical legal death investigation certificate to be a medical legal death investigator. 8 years with the coroner's office, covering at least 700 cases and 8 homicides. I've done it, I've had the experience, I have the respect of law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're going to now move back to the county attorney candidates who had a little rest too. Jim, we'll start with you, and then we'll go down the line to Tony and end up back at Peggy. Okay. Title 25, a statute addressing individual involuntary hospitalization and treatment of mentally ill persons, heavily involves the county attorney. What is your stance on the financial responsibility of the county in the cases? And I have to tell you, I did not write this question, but as a hospital trustee, I have a conflict of interest. But I'm just asking the question. Jim.
Title 25 involves involuntary hospitalizations, and historically over the last years we have had a total of about 130 cases of that a year in 2012 and 2013. We're on pace for about that this year. Those are detentions that are made by law enforcement or an officer, and it is determined that a person may be mentally ill because of may be dangerous to self or others because of a mental illness. The involvement of the county attorney is after the detention is made. The county attorney's office is notified. Under current procedures, we determine whether or not we will file a petition. It's based on an examination made by a doctor or a certified mental health person, both at 24 hours and at 48 hours. And the filings are now done by the county. With respect to payment, the statute provides for who is liable for that payment, and the county is basically the payer of last resort. If other available ways of paying for it are not available, the county must pay.
Sorry, Jim.
I got to stop.
Tony.
Well, Jim gave you the overview. Somebody makes a report, police go investigate. The person appears to be a threat or a danger to themselves or other, they're taken into custody, and there are statutory prescribed deadlines for them to be evaluated. They're entitled to a hearing. They're either released at the hearing or they're further detained. Okay, then we get to the bad part that we're talking about. Once they are done, there's quite a bit of costs out there. I believe statutorily the hospital is required to attempt 3 times to find out whether or not they have insurance coverage, and if it's not available, then, as Mr. Schermetzer we're going to repeat ourselves, all four of us up here pretty much, is required to pay. I had a short meeting yesterday with the chief officer of the hospital, Doug. We talked for a bit, and they said, well, this is a topic for further conversation. I know that 4 years ago, there was an offer on the table for a payment to cover the entire year. That might be a little bit of a problem, but we're going to have to look at some other areas in which to come up with funding, because Albany County, we're smart and people, but we sure don't have a lot of money. So we're going to have to find some rational way to. There you go, Josh.
Thank you, Tony. Joshua?
I believe Title 25 has been pretty well covered. So the harder question is, what is the role of the county attorney in these proceedings? As county attorney, we're here to protect the rights of the individuals, to do the best we can to make sure the statutes are followed. My office will continue to do that. As far as the financial responsibility of the county, again, we represent the county. There are statutory requirements of what we do and don't have to pay while someone is being detained. I'll ensure that those requirements are met, that the county pays for what we're required to pay for, but we don't pay for anything else. That's about the only thing you can do that will be fiscally responsible for the residents of the county. We have a system in place right now where we review these bills, and I would continue that system to make sure that we are paying our fair share, what we're required to by statute, but not paying anything else.
Thank you, Joshua. Peggy?
Well, first I must disclose, I have my private practice and I am the general counsel for the trustees for Ivinson Memorial Hospital. So one of the reasons I did come about being the general counsel was the issues we were experiencing under Title 25, involuntary commitments. Specifically, under the current administration, the interpretation of the state statute was that they did not have to file these commitments on behalf of the state of Wyoming, and it was incumbent upon the hospital. Fortunately, the Supreme Court corrected that, and there was only 2 communities where it was occurring, here in Laramie and up in Park County. One of the issues also, as you've read about in the paper, is the payment of money. First of all, under the statute, it is we pay as the county the first 3 days. First you do, as they correctly noted, exhaust insurance, exhaust payment, and then it comes back the cost on insurance, and on the county, and then it moves on to the Board of Health past those dates. The problem that presents itself, you're the gatekeeper of who gets filed for an involuntary commitment. Under the state statute, there is a method in what we see a lot of individuals that are coming back and through the system, the same people repetitively. There is a program that we have the authority under the county, we should be shifting our costs to the tail end, that when people come out of the hospital, we're providing aftercare to prevent them to get to that in the beginning, and then we would not expend the funds. Thank you.
We're going to stick with the county attorneys, even though I now have a lot of questions for the coroners. We will get to you. And I'm going to try to combine 2 questions here, and you may have to help me because I'm not an attorney. One question starts off with an assertion, and I believe I heard one of the candidates even mention this. It seems the county attorney's office has lost several recent trials. Why do you think that has happened, and what will you do to change that? And then I think it's connected, as a layman at least. What is your philosophy about plea bargaining? And we'll start with Peggy.
I was one of the candidates who initiated and indicated that was one of the reasons I was running. I worked in Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, as I said. At that time, I trained under some of the best trial attorneys in the country. And basically, we did a collaborative approach of prosecution. And what I would bring to the table is that we need to do 2 attorney assignments. Even just sitting here, the way we think differently, men, women, 2 males, 2 women together, we think and collaborate differently on each case. It's vital to a case for success. We also need to be bringing in the law enforcement, victim witness, the victim. We need to be bringing that more to the table. more importantly, we have to look at how we charge the cases. I feel that a lot of the reason we are not successful is we are not charging appropriately. When you do successful prosecution, that means when a case goes, we're going to lose some cases, but we're going to give the best opportunity to our victim. The other part of this question, I believe, dealt with how you would plea bargaining. Plea bargaining is vital to our community. If we were to go to trial on every case, the whole system would come to a screeching halt. So what needs to occur is we need to appropriately charge the cases so that we're appropriately plea bargaining the cases to what they really are in fact. But I believe at times, I went and checked statistics, it's out of...
Thank you, Peggy. We'll go to Jim.
Success in trial starts with early preparation, and it starts with at the time of charging. So it is important that there be good communication between law enforcement and the prosecutor, that the charging document is done properly and is done with collaboration between the two parties, law enforcement and the prosecutor. The concept of preparation is so important, and my experience is that early in the case is the time to do that, so that everyone knows, the other side in particular, that the case is prepared and we're ready to go. The concept of having 2 lawyers on every trial, I wish we had those kind of resources, but I do think that second chairs in some trials would be helpful. Also think that jury selection is important, and I think we need to do a better job of preparing for that and educating juries in the process. Plea bargains are important, and what you need to do is upfront determine what kind of a result you want, and if you can maintain that result by a good plea bargain, you have accomplished what you need to do.
Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, you do.
Hi, I'm going to go in reverse order. Yes, plea bargains are a function. There aren't that many trials in this county. There just aren't. So let's talk about the plea bargains first. We will sit down with some input from law enforcement. We'll come up with a general framework. However, any and all plea bargains, when they're on the table, they must be accepted or rejected no later than 10 days prior to the submission of the pretrial. Because we're not going to waste work. You don't get to come in at the last minute after Jim, Peggy, Josh, whoever's in the office has wasted 3 days doing a pretrial memorandum. 10 days before the submission of the pretrial, the deal's off the table. It's a straight plea, no deals. In terms of the trial preparation, I look at it backwards, forward. First thing we're going to do is have a weekly meeting, probably at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we're going to go over all potential trials, and it's going to be a free-for-all with the other attorneys in the office, pointing out, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you think of that? Have you talked to this witness? Have you done this? Have you done that? And whatever bloodletting happens in there, stays in there. We're not going to have thin skin. Well, oh my goodness, Jim said so-and-so, or oh, Tony said this, or Josh said this. It's there to get educated, and it's there to get the different viewpoints. And we can do that once a week, starting at 7.
Thanks, Tony. Joshua?
I have tried more cases in Albany County in the last 5 years, criminal cases, than any other attorney here in town. And as a result, I've probably lost more. I've lost 6 felony jury trials, I'll be honest with you. 3 sex assault trials, the murder trial, a witness intimidation trial, and a child abuse trial. What can we do to do better? Tony has a good idea, to get together with the attorneys, to fight over, to discuss these cases, and to just get it out there. The 2-attorney system will not work. We only have 2 prosecutors in the office. We have 2 courtrooms going at any given time. I've got a week-long jury trial starting in September. If Kurt second chairs me, who's going to answer circuit court? That's not how it is. The biggest thing that will help us win more trials is for the county attorney to carry a felony caseload. Right now, Kurt and I are the only two prosecutors. We're running about 80 to 120 open cases. We prep the best we can with the time that we can, but if we had someone to help shoulder this burden, a county attorney that will carry even just a 30, 40 felony caseload a year would open up our time immensely. And as for plea bargains, they help the system shut down without it.
Thank you, Joshua. Now we're going to go over to the coroners. You rested enough. Jennifer, the questioner asserts, and I don't know if this is true, so you can tell me, death certificates can require going through a lot of different checkpoints before being signed. How would you speed up this process, and is it even possible?
The checkpoints that are required on a death certificate obviously are required on every single one. Familiarity with the death certificates themselves and the checkpoints that are required, and learning by talking to the people that have done it will probably be the easiest way to speed it up. Sometimes the investigation takes longer, but we have the chance and the choice of signing death certificates as pending investigation so that the family members can start working on the unfortunate but the side effects of the death of their loved one. They can start settling estates and things of that nature with a pending death certificate. Other than that, you're just going to have to follow your investigation and move forward in that way, and that affects the timeliness of the death certificates as well. But knowing how to do it, having the experience to do it is what's required.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jesse?
Having worked with the state system for completing death certificates myself for several years, it's a lot, much streamlined now compared to what it was quite a few years ago when we were still using the paper system, which involved sometimes having to drive to Cheyenne several times in a day. Now it's computerized, so it has been streamlined considerably. There are still checks and balances for it that have to be followed with protocol. Like Jennifer said, you can sign a death certificate pending, but ultimately the final completed death certificate is what families need in order to take care of their loved ones' bank accounts, estates, etc., life insurance policies, and making sure that you follow all the checks and balances in order to get that done as quickly as possible for them is what your ultimate goal should be. Thank you.
Okay. Joshua, I'm going to ask you to start with this one. Do you think the county coroner's office is properly equipped? And if not, what would you be requesting in terms of fixing that deficiency?
Do you want to
I'm
answer
sorry.
that question?
No. Jesse, I'm sorry. Come on, you guys can still rest.
That was a free 90 seconds.
Thank you for that question. I think the county coroner's office is equipped to complete the tasks and duties and responsibilities that are assigned to them. I think it's a lot of it is a matter of management of those resources to get the job done. In the many years that I worked in the funeral industry with the coroner's office, it was that was the bottom line. So that I'll give it to Jennifer.
I'm sorry, could you repeat for me one more time the question?
Yes. Do you think the county coroner's office is properly equipped to carry out the duties of the coroner? And if not, what would you be asking the commissioners for funding?
All right, thank you very much for that. We have a very well-staffed office, or we did 4 years ago when I was there. I believe that one of the first things that we might need to end up doing is we have an aging vehicle that is our secondary vehicle. When one breaks down, you obviously need a backup vehicle, so that was something that we need to consider in the future, is replacing that vehicle. It's I believe, a 97 Suburban, and the other one is a good truck that, you know, can be put in as a secondary vehicle. If we could go ahead and get another vehicle, I believe that's something that's of importance, as well as continuing vehicle maintenance and continuing education as well. Management is the most important thing to do with the office, and I learned how to manage the office under Julie Heggie, and especially as Tom Ferguson's chief coroner for 4 years. Tom was very transparent. He appreciated all assistance, and he would train me. He's also still working with me today. He's up in Washington, and he's offered any help that I need. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, we're going to come back to the county attorney candidates. And we'll start with Joshua. This time I'm right. And it goes back to what we've been talking about. But this questioner says, what obligations does the county attorney have to the accused in sexual assault cases? All of you have emphasized your obligation to the victim. How about the accused?
We have an obligation to conduct a fair trial. We have to disclose any exculpatory evidence. Our office has an open file policy, so we just give them everything that we have when we get it. We don't hide anything. Short of that, I'm a prosecutor. I'm in the business of getting convictions. I will have a fair trial, have an open trial, but I'm going to do everything I can to convict the individual.
Thank you. Tony, you're next.
I'm going to say something I've been wanting to say for 30 years in practice. Every time that there's a jury selection process, the attorneys stand up and they say, you know, we're here to choose a fair and impartial jury, and we want the defendant here to have a fair trial. That's the biggest bunch of BS in the world. It is. If I'm prosecuting a sexual assault case, I want 12 jurors who there's been assault in the family. If you're from the defense side, you want 12 jurors who hate cops. We go through these facades and we talk nice and we use the big words, but the reality is, yes, we have an ethical obligation. I will satisfy that. And part of the thing that I think we can start doing is if we have a witness that has a problem, whether it's a lay witness or a policeman, this nice little thing that we're being recorded on, you record somebody and you let them see why they stink as a witness. This is why nobody's going to believe you when you get up to trial. Look at how you look like. Let's change this, let's change that. Officer, this isn't good. There are tools out there, all we have to do is utilize them. And sometimes my ideas are good, sometimes they're wacky as all hell, but somebody can tell me if they're crazy. Okay? Go ahead, Jim.
Well, the county attorney is sworn to uphold the Constitution, and accused have constitutional rights. And I think one of the duties of a county attorney is to see to it that those constitutional rights are protected, that those are implemented properly, that the judge gives the right advisements, that the law enforcement folks do the right thing, and that our office does the right thing. As Josh indicated, we have a duty to disclose, and in our office we have always done that. As soon as we get things, we disclose them to the other side. I think one of the responsibilities of an elected official, elected county attorney, is to make sure that the constitutional rights of everyone, accused or victim or otherwise, are protected.
Thanks, Jim. Peggy?
As I understand the question, what is the obligation to the accused in a sexual assault? If the prosecution is doing their job from the beginning, when they're charging and speaking to the victim of a sexual assault from the beginning, then we learn the weakness and strengths of our case at that time. We learn of the issues that are happening. At that point, that's how a charging decision is made, and that's the obligation that I have to that defendant. Justice is blind. I believe in that. We have to look at the facts and fairness to uphold what is fair in looking at it. Sometimes victims don't want to testify, and to force them, you know, as studies will show, is not, it may take them 2 and 3 times of where they've been in situation, but we're talking about sexual assault, but also with domestic violence. So it's very important that the victims involved, speaking with the victim, understanding the victim, and at this point, if the victim at that point is not willing to go forward, we have to respect that, and I think there's an obligation in charging when we go forward. I don't charge a case, if I can prove a case independent, and I have done it on a domestic violence where a male was assaulted with a knife in his back, and I ended up trying the case because the woman did not want to come forward, but he was seriously injured and he had been abused several times. So independently, I believe we have an obligation to the accused to talk to the victim and find out the victim and the case and the facts.
Thank you, Peggy. I've got several here that I'm going to try to combine a little bit. The questioners want to know about the role of the county attorney and you as candidates in particular in advising governmental entities, in particular the county, on civil matters, and when are executive sessions appropriate and when are they not? And we'll start with Peggy.
Well, as I said earlier, I've represented the city attorney, and in my private practice I represent governmental entities, including the town of Hannah, city of Douglas, and as I said tonight, most recently, Ivinson Memorial Hospital. In my role, I do not believe executive session, and I've learned this from working as the city attorney, is always necessary. If anything I learned from the city, working as a city attorney, I'm very cautious and judicious as to when we go into executive session. Most things, I'm amazed what you can do in the open and giving that transparency that the public wants. There are situations we go in. I know that back when I was city attorney, it became a crime in order if you spoke outside of the topic. I know I've implemented certain procedures when I'm in executive session to keep council on task or the board on task. So in representing the government entity, I would be judicious in what we went into executive session, but it is necessary in certain cases and would be most appropriate when we're dealing with more sensitive issues. Also along that line, if I could quickly add, I also am concerned about meetings and when we're doing improper meetings and people having casual conversations when we have a quorum. I find that very concerning, and I think that that equally needs to be policed by the county attorney.
Thanks, Peggy. Jim?
Thank you. The role of the county attorney, in addition to the criminal prosecution, is also advising the county officials and county employees, department heads on civil matters. So the role of the county attorney is to research questions that the officials have, to give, as I indicated earlier, prompt advice and prompt response time to them so that they can make choices. I think one of the things you do as an advisor in a civil case is you point out to your client, in this case a county official, what options are there, what the pros and cons of each of those are, so that public official can make its decision based on your advice. I think your role is not to usurp that power, but to help that official. With respect to open meetings, the statutes are very clear. There's very specific things that can be talked about in executive session. When you're through with the executive session, you go back into regular session and action is taken based on whatever might have happened or not taken, as the case may be. One of the roles of the county attorney, as I said, is to also prosecute. So what is a little bit weird about this is if the public meeting law is violated.
Sorry, Jim. I think I know where you were going.
The same person has to.
Okay, version 3. We're going to limit the number of executive sessions as much as possible. Grant has a problem, Jackie has a problem, Janice has a problem. They know they can call me up. If I have the answer, I'll give you the answer. If I don't, I will say the smartest words any attorney can, or anybody who's advising. I don't know. How quick do you need the answer? End of the day? Tomorrow? Next day? Utilize the resources up at the prosecution assistants. Give a couple of calls. This is a question. Need 3 pages. Need 3 pages from you. Look at it. We'll decide. I like Jim's version. Our job is not to drive the dang bus. You advise the commissioners. You give them the options. They decide. If I can get through a commissioners meeting with less than 100 words, that's a victory. All right? That's why you were elected, Tim. That's why you were elected, Jerry. That's why you were elected, Tim, or whoever it comes out, or John, or whoever. Your choice. You have our opinion. You have the options. You know the ramifications, and that's why you were elected. We're just there to advise.
Thanks, Tony. Joshua?
Version 4, I'll keep it sweet, short and sweet. County attorney advises our elected county officials and our department heads. That's our role as far as the civil stuff goes. We don't set policy for them, we just give them guidance. For an example, if one of the counties said we had surplus gear, what do we do to sell it? We look at the statutes, we tell them the procedures to follow that. As far as executive sessions, as Jim pointed out, there's very clear guidelines in the statutes when they're appropriate. I would let the county commissioners know when those guidelines are, when they can do them, and have them follow those. Thank you.
I'm sorry, do we need to take a break maybe for a minute?
Is Shirley okay?
No. Okay.
Give Shirley thoughts, prayers, whatever.
Amen.
Thank you. I'll go to the county attorneys. I'll rephrase this question just a little bit, but it'll get the kernel of it. Do you think there is sufficient diversity in the county attorney's office with respect to gender, cultural background, age? You can name the rest of the factors. And if not, what would you propose to do about that? And we'll start with Tony.
God, this is soft toss right down the middle, Terry. It occurs to me that, gee, you want some cultural diversity? Voting for Lopez will probably give it to you right off the bat. That was a nice pitch.
I didn't write it.
Okay, so I'm gonna use my 90 seconds talking about something else. All right. I'm running an ad in the League of Women Voters thing. Sits out a couple of positions. We haven't really touched on much or had the time. Domestic violence. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. I used to have 30 guns. I'm sorry. If you have a history of police contacts with law enforcement and or there are injuries to the other party in there, you're either going to plead guilty or you could be found guilty of the domestic violence. I don't give a rat's patoot or any other body part. about reducing it down to save your precious gun rights. If you're a bad parent, you lose your kids. If you're a felon, you lose your voting rights. If you abuse women, you're gonna lose your right to hunt, fish, have guns. Same thing if you're, pretty easy choice. You can be a meth freak or you can be a parent, but you can't be a damn meth freak and have needles and stuff laying around. We'll do our best to take your kids away from you.
Thank you, Tony. We'll go to Joshua next.
Roseal's not as good as you just look at Josh.
Yeah, Tony just told me Roseal's not a good as name.
Oh, it's a good name, it's just not as diverse.
It's just not as diverse as Lopez, I'm sorry, let me clarify that. And he's right about that. Sufficient diversity in the county attorney's office. I believe we do. We've got quite a range of ages, experience. We've got about equal male, female employees in there. Our hiring practices have not been based on any exclusionary criteria. It's just we hire the best qualified candidates out of the pool that applies, and we live in Laramie, Wyoming. So I believe we do have sufficient diversity. I know that I can go to Jim if I need to answer, or have a question to ask. I can go to Jen and I can ask her a question, Kurt, and ask him a question, and get different answers based on their different experiences, their different takes. So we are a diverse office.
Thank you. We'll come to Peggy, and then Jim will be last.
Well, I would disagree with all of you as to whether we have sufficient diversity within the current makeup of the county attorney's office. First of all, as to follow up something that was said earlier, that you don't know if we have enough resources for 2 prosecutors a case. Well, we have a great resource. It's called the University of Wyoming School of Law, and we have a diverse population living in the community of Laramie that we can draw upon different individuals to work within our office. Right now, for the attorneys prosecuting with the elected official, we have 4 male attorneys and 1 female attorney, and to my best of my knowledge, she used to, the female attorney is not prosecuting any longer. We don't have diversity when we're prosecuting to see women. Women bring a different background. Culturally bring a different, we have a strong Latino population within our community. We are not representative of our community. What we are trying cases in front of our peers, which are supposed to be representative, but yet we do not have that in our office. So it's very important that we recognize there is diversity, different cultural issues when we do prosecute, respecting those beliefs and those various people. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy. Jim.
Thank you. I believe that we are as diverse as we can be at the present time. I mean, we are living in Laramie, Wyoming, and I think we hire people that are based on their qualifications to do the job. If I'm elected, there will be a need to hire 1 more attorney, and I will seek out the best candidate that we have to fill that position. The concept of diversity is very important. If we can't get it with staff, I think bringing it in with other folks to represent this team. We've talked a lot today about a team. We have women law enforcement officers. We have 2 women in the witness protection, victim witness coordinator's office. I think those people can be utilized better to provide that diversity if we don't have it on the legal staff.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to ask 1 more question of the coroners and 1 more question of the county attorney candidates. And then we'll wrap it up and give you an opportunity to mingle with the group. And perhaps there are questions that I just simply didn't get around to that they would want to ask you. Are there different responsibilities in the coroner's office in case of a death on a state or federal highway as opposed to a county or private road? We'll go with you, Jim, for sure. You volunteered, I saw it.
No, all of Albany County is the jurisdiction of the coroner's office. It doesn't matter if it's on a county road, if it's on a state highway. federal lands. All of it falls under the jurisdiction of the county coroner. The agency that responds in terms of law enforcement is what is the different response. If it's on a state highway, then it's going to be highway patrol. Many times though, however, the sheriff's office is also there because they go with the ambulance. They also help control the roadway and assist the highway patrol. If it occurs within town, then the Laramie PD is going to be the law enforcement agency that's going to respond. And they usually get there first, as we just saw, right before the ambulance got here. So no, it doesn't make a difference, but it does impact which law enforcement agency is going to respond. Thank you.
Okay, now Jesse, I saw you doing this as Jennifer was talking.
Yes,
So
Jennifer answered the question very well.
I'm not going to ask you the same question.
All right.
When a call occurs, will it be the coroner who responds, or will it be delegated to the deputy coroners? And I didn't even know we had deputy coroners.
Yes, we have actually several deputy coroners currently. It should be the coroner's responsibility to be informed and be knowledgeable about every call that comes into the Albany County Coroner's Office. Ultimately, they are responsible and they are beholden to the public for that job. So because the coroner, no matter how tough they think they might be, cannot work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But I would like to say that with my office, it would be mandatory that the coroner was notified of every case that comes in, whether he was going out on that case or he or she, sorry Jennifer, is going out on that case with the deputy, or it's deputies that are going out on that case.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, the last question for the county attorneys. And I've got a whole bunch that could have been asked, but time's up. But I thought this was sort of interesting, so it's different than anything else that's been asked. Do you believe marijuana possession and use should be prosecuted? And if so, how aggressively should it be punished? Peggy.
Part of the county attorney's office would be through circuit court misdemeanors for use, depending on the level, and it could reach up to the felony level of trafficking or large quantities. If I'm elected, I have to follow the law. And the law right now in the state of Wyoming is it is illegal. As to a policy in my office, am I going to say free dismissal for all pot smokers? No, I cannot do that. That is not my oath and what I'm sworn to uphold. However, do I feel the resources of the office needs to be generated towards these type of cases? I'm more concerned, as I've said tonight, victim-based crimes. That's how we're able to process cases through. But as people will tell you as studies, marijuana is the gateway drug, it was cigarettes, to more extensive use. So at this point, I will follow the law. I'm not giving dismissals for marijuana, but I do recognize we're in a university town. There are programs, and that would be a good point to bring this up at this point, is I believe we need to have more, although we do first offender, I think we need to have deferred prosecutions as well, where people don't use their first offender on certain offenses, and depending upon that use, I would consider, because it affects grants and funding for students at the university.
Thank you, Peggy. Jim?
Well, there is obviously a national debate about the effects of marijuana and whether or not it should be classified as a drug. It is now without no medicinal value as it is in Wyoming. But the law of Wyoming is that marijuana is illegal, so I believe the county attorney's office has an obligation to enforce that law. And that is what we will do if I'm elected. And I understand that there is there are certain crimes that are more severe than others, and perhaps that isn't one that is high on the list. But folks need to obey the law, and in particular, I think our juveniles need to learn not to disobey the law. And even in our neighbors to the south, in Colorado, juveniles cannot smoke marijuana legally, and there are many studies done with respect to the effects of the brain of children or juveniles of drugs like marijuana. And so I think with respect to juveniles, it is particularly important to enforce marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Tony?
Okay, the correct response, okay? Whether it's Peggy, Jim, Tony, or Josh, we will all have a duty and obligation to enforce the law. There's a statute out there, and I had the wrong number. Josh corrected me. It's 35-7-10-37, first offender for drug possession of small amounts. That'll be available. It's one of those that the judge does not need the prosecution's input. Trafficking, forget it. That's a non-negotiable. Kids, either juvenile court, or we can do some kind of start a diversion program. There are a whole bunch of law students up there, and the reason I keep coming back to law students, it's a pretty damn competitive job market up there. I'll tell you, when you're a third-year law student, and it doesn't matter if you're top of the class or bottom of your class, what you want is something on your resume that indicates that you have had some kind of work, either with a law firm or a government entity. It's there, pretty cheap, pretty free. We use them, and there's no reason why we can't even up the numbers. And quite frankly, if I don't get a call back from the nice director, then I'll go to the dean. I'll talk to Jackie Bridgman. If that doesn't work, then I'll go to the nice president of the university. If we have to start our own program for the Albany County Attorney's Office, we can get it done. Beauty of the small state is, good God, you can pick up the phone and call the flipping governor of this state, and he's going to take the call.
Yes, he will. Thank you, Tony. Joshua?
All right, simple answers. I swore to uphold the laws and enforce the laws of the state of Wyoming, and I'll continue to do it. That's my answer to the marijuana question. I want to address, everybody keeps on throwing out this UW Law School as this asset for us. And I want to address the realities of that situation real quick. We've had interns in our office. We had an intern all last school year, and we just had an intern this summer. When I came to intern in the office, I had taken criminal adjudication, criminal law 1 and 2, criminal procedure, and family law. I was prepared to be a prosecution intern. They have changed the required courses that they give at the law school now in the first and second years. Law students can practice under Rule 12 under the supervision of a lawyer, which means we're getting interns that don't have the basic requirements necessary to really assist in the prosecution of our cases. Nothing against them. They're smart, brilliant people that work hard, but if you haven't taken criminal procedure, you don't know what your Fourth Amendment rights are, you really can't help me in a criminal case. The law school is an asset, but it's not the catch-all, end-all solution to all the problems in Albany County. Right now, the prosecution assistance clinic's running about 6 interns through their clinic right now. We generally get 1 every year. We're doing the best we can with what we got, but it's not the end-all solution. It can be more detrimental for me to try to explain the Fourth Amendment to an intern than it is just to answer the motion response on my own, because I know the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. I'd like to thank all the candidates, at least from my perspective, and I've watched lots of debates. Not necessarily am I talking about the ones here, but some of the national ones. In contrast to those where the candidate just sort of blabs on with whatever they want to talk about rather than answering the question, you've all done an admirable job, in my mind, in answering the question. So thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the audience for the questions. I'm sorry we simply didn't have time to get to all of them. There are a lot of good ones that are still left, but I'll tell you what the procedure is. I give them to the League of Women Voters, and then they go through them and use them to give questions to candidates as well. So if we missed your favorite question, the League will get it, and it may get answered in some way or another. So thank you all for participating. Thanks.